The movies lied to you about Frodo Baggins. Peter Jackson's trilogy is a cinematic masterpiece, but it presented a version of the ring bearer that was fundamentally hollowed out. In the films, we see a wide-eyed, innocent youth thrust into a sudden adventure. We see a victim who is constantly rescued, a hero defined more by his vulnerability and his large, expressive eyes than by his character. But the archives of the Third Age tell a far more complex, darker, and more heroic story.
It's just a feeling. I don't think I'll be coming back.
The real Frodo wasn't a child. He was a 50-year-old scholar who had been preparing for his burden for nearly 2 decades. He was a leader who saved his friends from supernatural horrors the movies completely stripped away. And most importantly, he was a hero who, at the final, most crucial moment, actually failed. This is the untold life of Frodo Baggins, from the dark mystery of his parents' death to his final chosen end. We are going beyond the silver screen to uncover the tragedy of the Hobbit who saved the world, but could never truly come home again.
Against the power of Mordor, there can be no victory.
Frodo's life was marked by shattering tragedy long before he ever touched the One Ring. He was born on September 22nd, 2968, but when he was only 12 years old, his world was extinguished. His parents, Drogo Baggins and Primula Brandybuck, went for a moonlight boat ride on the Brandywine River. They never returned. In the Shire, gossip is a blood sport. The silence surrounding their deaths was quickly filled with vicious whispers. Old Noakes, a local expert on everyone's business, claimed Drogo's massive weight simply tipped the boat, a tragic accident of physics. But others, like the Miller Sandyman, whispered something much more sinister. They claimed Primula pushed him in, and he pulled her in after him.
I've heard they went on the water after dinner, and it was Drogo's weight has sunk the boat.
If we dig deeper into Tolkien's master timeline, a chilling theory emerges that the films wouldn't dare touch. At this exact time in history, the creature Gollum was tracking the name Baggins across the wild with a murderous obsession. Gandalf tells us that Gollum travelled westward, reaching a great river before the trail went cold, and he turned back. Is it possible that Gollum found the wrong Baggins that night? Did he attack a boat in the dark, realize too late that Drogo didn't have his precious, and flee back into the shadows? Tolkien never confirmed this, but the chronology is eerie. If true, it means Frodo was an orphan because of the very creature he would one day have to show mercy to. It turns their first meeting from a chance encounter into a fated collision of 2 victims of the same shadow.
This is Sting. You've seen it before, haven't you, Gollum?
After the tragedy, Frodo was stranded at Brandy Hall. He was a rascal, a troublemaker who spent his days causing mischief with his cousins, Merry and Pippin. Everything changed when he was adopted by his eccentric uncle, Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo didn't just give Frodo a home at Bag End. He gave him an education that few hobbits could even imagine. This is a massive book-to-movie difference. In the films, Frodo seems like a simple country lad. In the books, he was a trained scholar. Bilbo taught him history, maps, and most importantly, the ancient language of the elves.
There are markings. It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
This education wasn't just for show. It made Frodo uniquely prepared. While other hobbits were worrying about the size of their cabbages, Frodo was studying the fall of kingdoms. He was the only hobbit in the Shire who truly understood the weight of the world outside its borders. He wasn't just lucky to be chosen. He was the only one qualified to handle what was coming. Here is the biggest narrative misdirection in the films. In Peter Jackson's version, Gandalf leaves and returns in what feels like a few weeks. The editing, the pacing, the urgency, it all screams immediate action. The reality? 17 years passed. Frodo was 33 when he inherited the ring. He didn't leave the Shire until he was 50. For nearly 2 decades, the ring was eating him alive in the silence of Bag End.
As time went on, people began to notice that Frodo also showed signs of good preservation. They began to think it queer.
While Frodo waited, Gandalf wasn't just wandering. he was performing an exhaustive historical search. He travelled to the archives of Minas Tirith, reading ancient scrolls that hadn't been touched in centuries to confirm the ring's identity. Meanwhile, Frodo lived as the Master of Bag End, carrying the ring every day without knowing its true power. He wasn't a child of circumstance, he was a mature man who made a conscious, heroic choice to leave. He didn't run because he was scared. He left because he knew staying would put the Shire in the direct line of fire. But here is what the movies didn't tell you. Merry and Pippin didn't just run into Frodo and Sam by accident while stealing vegetables. They were part of the Buckland Conspiracy. Frodo's friends had been spying on him for months. They knew about the ring. They knew he was planning to leave, and they refused to let him face the shadow alone.
You can trust us to stick to you through thick and thin, to the bitter end. We are your friends.
In the films, they are accidental tourists. In the books, they are vowed companions who knew the stakes and chose the danger anyway. This changes the entire dynamic of the Fellowship. It wasn't just a group of people thrown together, it was a brotherhood built on loyalty and a secret that had been brewing for years. Before they even reached Bree, the hobbits travelled through the Old Forest and the Barrow Downs, two terrifying chapters completely cut from the movies. In the Old Forest, the very trees were alive and filled with a hatred for those that go free upon the earth. When the semi-sentient old man Willow trapped a Merry and Pippin inside his trunk, it was Frodo who kept his head. He didn't wait for a hero, he fought to find a way to save them before Tom Bombadil arrived. But it was in the Barrow Downs that Frodo's true strength was revealed. The hobbits were captured by a Barrow-wight, an ancient malevolent spirit waking up in a cold tomb. Frodo saw his friends lying pale and dressed in white, with a skeletal hand creeping toward them.
There is a seed of courage hidden in the heart of the fattest and most timid hobbit, waiting for some final and desperate danger to make it grow.
You have a stout heart, little hobbit.
Frodo didn't collapse. He seized a short sword and hacked the skeletal hand from the wrist. This wasn't a shivering boy. This was a hero with iron in his soul. This specific moment is where Frodo acquired his Westernesse blade, a sword enchanted with spells specifically designed to destroy the Witch King. We will be doing a deep dive on the history of the Barrow-wights and these ancient blades in a future video. Another major deception in the films is the fight at Weathertop. In Peter Jackson's version, Frodo drops his sword in terror, whimpers, and is stabbed while cowering. Tolkien wrote it differently. Even in the grip of supernatural terror, Frodo struck back.
At that moment, Frodo threw himself forward on the ground, crying aloud, "O Elbereth, Gilthoniel!" At the same time, he struck at the feet of his enemy.
The Witch King wasn't just stabbing a victim, he was retreating in dismay. He had just failed to defeat Gandalf 2 days earlier, and now he was facing a hobbit who invoked the name of Avala and struck him with an enchanted blade made for his own destruction. The Witch King was terrified that this hobbit was in league with the High Elves. He is the Lord of the Nazgul, a former king of men turned into a wraith. We will be uncovering his full dark origin story in a later video. Even the famous scene at the ford of Bruinen was rewritten for the screen. In the book, Arwen does not rescue Frodo. It is the elf lord, Glorfindel, who puts him on a horse, and on the riverbank, it was Frodo alone who turned his horse and defied the Nine.
Go back to the land of Mordor, and follow me no more. By Elbereth and Luthien the Fair, you shall have neither the ring nor me."
In the movies, the Fellowship feels like a family. But look closely, Legolas never speaks a single direct word to Frodo in the entire trilogy. In the books, their relationships were deeper, but more formal. Frodo was a noble figure, respected by Boromir and Aragorn alike. When Faramir met Frodo in the books, he didn't try to kidnap him. He recognized Frodo's wisdom immediately. He saw a hobbit who was as noble as any prince of Gondor.
I think at last we understand one another, Frodo Baggins.
As the journey reached its end, the ring was no longer just an object. It had become what Frodo called a wheel of fire. It was erasing the world from his mind.
No taste of food, no feel of water, no sound of wind, no memory of tree or grass or flower.
Why didn't Frodo turn into a monster like Gollum? The answer is mercy. Samwise Gamgee never trusted Gollum. He wanted him dead from the start, but Frodo saw Gollum as a mirror of his own potential future. There is a tragic moment in the books at Cirith Ungol that the films cut. Gollum sees the two hobbits sleeping, and for a second the light returns to his eyes. He reaches out and caresses Frodo's hand with genuine love. At that moment Gollum was almost redeemed, but Sam woke up, saw the creature sneaking, and insulted him, snapping the last thread of Gollum's sanity.
The ring is mine.
Now we reach the part that many people misunderstand. At the edge of the fire, Frodo finally broke. Most see this as a failure of character, but Tolkien, in his famous Letter 246, defended his hero. Tolkien stated that at the center of its power, the ring was irresistible. No mortal being, not Aragorn, not Gandalf, and not even the saintly Samwise could have willingly destroyed it. Frodo did not fail because he was weak. He failed because the task was impossible for any mortal creature. He had been placed in a sacrificial position where he gave everything, and it still wasn't enough. Because Frodo had shown mercy to Gollum earlier, the providence of the world stepped in. Gollum bit the ring off, fell into the fire, and the mission was complete. Frodo didn't save the world through strength. He saved it through suffering, endurance, and pity. In the movies, the hobbits return home to a perfect Shire. This is perhaps the biggest lie of the cinematic adaptation. In the books, they found a wasteland. The land had been taken over by industrial machines and thugs. The leader was a man called Sharky, the fallen wizard, Saruman. After his defeat at Isengard, Saruman had crawled to the Shire to exact a petty revenge. While Merry and Pippin led the physical battle, Frodo showed a different kind of strength, restraint. He refused to draw his sword. He protected the ruffians who were surrendering. He had seen enough war, and he would not let his home become a slaughterhouse.
Yes, it must be a scouring, but not a slaughter.
We set out to save the Shire, Sam. But not for me.
Victory ends the war, but it does not heal the wounds. Frodo tried to live in the Shire for 2 years, but he was a stranger in his own home. He suffered from debilitating PTSD, falling ill every year on the anniversary of his wounds. So, Frodo sailed west. But what actually happened to him? The answer is no, he did not become immortal. The Undying Lands are named for the people who lived there, not for the land itself. Frodo was allowed to live on the island of Tol Eressëa. It was a purgatory of peace, a place where the Valar could heal his spirit. And finally, when he was whole again, Frodo chose his own time to pass away. He died of his own free will, free of the ring's burn, likely having seen his friend Samwise one last time when Sam followed him across the sea years later.
I'm back.
Frodo Baggins was never the strongest warrior, but he could suffer longer than anyone else in Middle-earth. He carried a darkness that would have destroyed a king in days, and he bore it for years. The films gave us a victim, Tolkien gave us a survivor who paid for the world's peace with his own, and that is why Frodo Baggins is not just the heart of the story, he is its greatest tragedy and its most powerful hero. If you made it this far, you are a legend. Hit the like button and tell me, who is the one character the movies got wrong? Thank you for visiting the archives. Speak, friend, and let the Chronicles continue.